Explained that to shut down any argument from Mom and Mark about my standing in Dad's case, we needed definitive biological proof. The test would be through an approved lab, and the results would go into the official APS file. I agreed, even though something about it felt wrong, like I had to prove my own family. We went to the lab the next morning, and a technician swabbed the inside of my cheek, then Dad's, and labeled the samples with case numbers. The whole thing took 10 minutes. Walking out, I felt angry that this was necessary, that 12 years of lies meant I had to scientifically verify I was my father's son. Dad was quiet in the car, and I knew he felt it too, this invasive proof of something that should have just been true. Artemisia called me into the legal aid office for an update. She'd drafted an emergency motion for temporary control of specific accounts, arguing that Mom and Mark's ongoing access created risk of further asset disappearing. The motion requested the court freeze certain accounts and require financial reporting while the investigations continued. We had a hearing date in 2 weeks. Artemisia spread the paperwork across her desk and walked me through what to expect. She said court was unpredictable and stressful, that judges had a lot of discretion, that we might not get everything we asked for, but this was our best shot at stopping them from hiding or spending more money while APS and the police did their work. I signed the verification forms, and she filed everything electronically that afternoon. The funeral home sent additional records 2 days later. I opened the envelope at the motel and pulled out invoices and contracts showing they'd provided space for a memorial service. Nothing more. No cremation services, no burial services, no handling of remains. Just a room rental and some chairs and a guest book. I stared at the papers trying to process that the funeral I remembered, the casket I cried over, the entire ceremony was theater. Mom and Mark had staged a memorial service for a man who was alive 20 miles away in a VA hospital. I felt something crack open inside me, this cold rage that made my hands shake. I told Dad I needed to walk, and I left the motel, circling the parking lot and the nearby streets for over an hour until my legs hurt and the anger settled into something I could carry. Ricardo called about HUDVASH screening for Dad. The program provided housing vouchers and case management for homeless veterans, and Dad qualified based on his service and current situation. The screening interview was scheduled for the following Tuesday at the VA clinic. Dad got anxious as soon as Ricardo explained the process, worried they'd think he was too damaged or didn't deserve help. That evening I sat with him, and we practiced answering the questions Ricardo said they'd ask. I reminded him he'd served his country, that he'd earned this support, that being honest about his needs wasn't weakness. We went over it until he could talk about his mental health and housing situation without his voice shaking too much. An email arrived at the legal aid office from Mom's personal account. Artemisia forwarded it to me with a note to call her. I read the whole thing, this long, rambling message about grief and confusion, and how she'd always planned to tell me the truth when I was older. She blamed the trauma of thinking she might lose Dad,